another, this one here really do it for you.
Baby, look at you. Yeah, baby, I'm all over you. Baby, come down to the floor. Let me show you how to play.
Y'all about my big bro Gerard in the podcast crew.
Welcome, everyone, to the Floor Is Yours podcast. You know what time it is. It's Thursday. It's 7 p.m., so it must be the Floor Is Yours podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We know that the most valuable thing you have in your life is time, and so we appreciate you sharing your time with us. And so we back again with it here, people. We at the Floor Is Yours podcast strive to present to you topics that are interesting and dynamic, and so we got one for you today. We're thinking out of the box, people. But before we dive into today's subject, I want to welcome our guests here. And of course, you know, we got to have our main man, Gerard, in the building. Gerard, say what's up to the people.
Hey, good evening. How's everyone? Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, brother. And so today, ladies and gentlemen, before we go another further, we're going to ask you to like, listen, and subscribe to the Floor Is Yours podcast so you can stay up to date to everything that we bring for you. We got some surprises in store for you down the road, so you want to stay in touch with what we are doing here. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I told you we like to think out of the box. And so sometimes we want to present topics that would challenge your thinking. We want you to be informed and educated on every aspect of life. And so today we're going to talk about agriculture. And we got an expert today who is going to bring the information that you need. And so what is surprising about this topic, if you're like me, you thought that agriculture just means putting a seed in the ground and watch it grow and you water it from time to time. But today we're going to get into the social relevancy of agriculture, the spiritual relevancy of it, and just how easy it is. And so we're going to talk about the who, the what, the when, the where, the how, everything you needed to know. And so we have with us today Miss Arlena. She is going, I probably butchered her name, so she's going to tell you how to say it the correct way. She's going to be with us tonight, and she's going to present and share with you thoughts and ideas in ways that you probably never thought about agriculture before. And so, Arlena, say hello to the people. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello. I am Arlena, the CEO and founder of Solutions Holistic Ag Operations. And so this is a garden to table operations. This nonprofit is here to educate you from the garden to the table and everything in between. I focus on soil, and you're going to learn tonight how soil will heal the mind, the body, and the ecosystem and provide social economic stimulation.
Hey, just real quick, I know people probably picking up on that accent and wondering, like, where is she from? So give us a little bit about your background, too.
Let me zoom in for y'all. I'm born and raised NOLA girl. I'm a New Orleans girl. So when I say I'm an urban farmer, baby, I'm very urban. The city is there, born and raised. But the farming comes from my foundation. I am actually a generational farmer. Incidentally, my parents, my grandparents, and their parents actually were farmers. My parents grew up on the land. My father actually planted and picked cotton. But they met in high school, sweethearts. They moved to New Orleans for the American dream to advance their life outside of the land. And there were me and my siblings born. But they made sure that I had plenty of foundation, and I watched them continue to grow in New Orleans. And so that has a big part of who you have sitting before you today.
I like that you said that, how this is generational. You know, and I think that we as a society have gotten away from passing down generations to generation, the spirit of agriculture and the empowerment that it gives us. And so we're going to dive into that a little bit later in the discussion. But tell us about agriculture in the sense of it's 2025. Why is it important for us to understand this when we can Instacart, we can, Uber Eats, whatever we want. Everybody's got a grocery store within walking distance, right? Why do we need this in 2025?
Microwave meals, right? All that, right?
All of
Fast
that.
and ready,
Yeah.
yes. Door dashing. That's not food. I hate to tell you guys, that's not food. So there's actually a war on our food, and we're losing. We're actually very behind in a couple of decades. We're losing. So the more processing and manufacturing and chemicals that put into our food, to include produce, is causing us to have the highest rate of disease. We are not healthy, fit, and strong. And then they charging us for all of these chemicals and processing and the exporting these foods that are coming from other countries, foreign, far away. And you have to do a lot to that food to make sure it makes it into your store looking pretty after it's traveled thousands of miles. And the body is rejecting that. And we are seeing the proof of that. America is the most unhealthiest, sickest country, and people of color are absolutely the most sickest of all.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, I think about some of the things that you just said, how we are the sickest culture in this country, how we are the sickest country. What do you think is causing that? But besides the food itself, why is there such a push for us to eat this processed food, to settle for convenience instead of healthy choices?
Two things is going on. First and foremost, I would hate that this to always be an issue, but this country is found on racial biases, and so racial disparity is keeping people of color at the bottom. And there's not a concern to make sure that we are healthy, and so that's one major reason why I'm very adamant about this. The second thing is production, dollars. And so the more people are born into this, it's a global issue, actually. More and more people being born, the more push it is to get the food out and to grow it fast. And so they're adding stimulants, chemicals, and pushing and getting this food away. But at the same time, again, both of those concepts, the racial disparity and the production and pushing, using chemical stimulants, is deteriorating our communities and our bodies. And it is showing in the rate of cancer and disease, mostly prevalent in communities of people of color.
You know, one thing, Gregory, that she brought up that stood out to me is the whole idea of them charging us for it, right? Like that's one of the biggest Houdini tricks, right? Is we're putting this in here. We have to eat. And you know, we work in 10, 12 hours, and then kids are in school. So we have this limited amount of time and availability and ability to provide ourselves with nutritious meals. Now, that's not an excuse, but we've come this, you know, fast-paced society and global economy where it is convenient to pull up at a McDonald's or a Taco Bell or even the microwave meals, right, with all these preservatives and just unhealthy ways of eating. And not just the unhealthy eating, Gregory, I know you're gonna get in this later, but the social aspect of it. We're spending less time at the dinner table, right? Interacting with each other, talking to each other, understanding what's going on with each other. So it's just so much about that part of it when you're saying that they're charging us and to make us unhealthy, right? It's kind of crazy.
You pointed out the fast and quick food, and this is unfortunate, but this is statistical data that right at the local universities, Parkland Hospital, and everywhere in any community where you're watching, they have these facts that in the Black and brown communities, there are food swamps. And what that means is there's so much access to processed, greasy food in our communities. You can get in your car or you can walk up to a chicken place, fried place, alcohol. There's the highest dollars being put into manufactured processed food. It comes in plastic, it's already made, you heat it up. And that's very unfortunate. But outside of our community, they have those options. They have options of healthy food that doesn't have a list of 60 ingredients. That's real food. And the issue in the Black and brown community is they not only may be a food swamp, it may be a food desert where they don't have access to those options. You don't see too many Whole Foods, Sprouts, and Trader Joe's in our community.
But just to add on that too, it's not just the processed food. Sometimes it's just the way we prepare food. So you got me. We're foodies. I hear people boast about being foodies, and everybody loves a good brunch. But those smothered, seasoned jerk pork chops or lamb chops,
Ooh.
candied yams.
That's foreign food now. Hold on, that's foreign food.
But by the time we prepare it,
about my waffles now. We're gonna
Yeah,
talk about chicken and waffles. Come on.
but by the time we prepare this organic food, by the time we prepare it and add to it and make it, flavorful and all that, then add a couple drinks to it. That is part of the issue too, right?
Right, absolutely. And then this is you named actually when I said that's farm food. I actually had that yesterday and today. I had lamb with sautéed cabbage and peppers and rice. And when I look at that plate, I'm proud because that's food come from straight from a farmer. But if you bought it at the grocery store, that meat has so many additives, steroids, antibiotics, so much stuff added to the meat that is not as healthy. It's the farmer has been diminished out of it. And then those sweet potatoes have been treated and sprayed. And so that is where the issue comes in. You took food that was from a farm or ranch that's supposed to be for our community to heal us and be strong. And we're sick from eating it. And then the ingredients that comes on waffles and pancake mix is outrageous. Bleached flour. Why are you bleaching the flour? And the sodium diphosphate and dioxycycline, same things that's in sunscreen. The ingredients on the back of these regular food products that we enjoy is crazy. So even if you're sitting at the table and you making them, sit down with your family, it is super processed.
Yeah.
I was wondering how much of our mind needs to be changed. How much of a paradigm shift do we need? Because when we think about food for the Black community has been also an expression of love, right? And so whenever there was a celebration, a graduation, a birthday, food is always present. And so oftentimes in the Black community, you didn't have houses and land to pass down, but you could pass down a recipe. And so it was an act of love. So, and then also combined with when we were slaves, we ate quote unquote slave food. So we ate the scraps, we ate everything on the pig, right? And so how much do you see you have to change people's minds, or do you see people like, hey, I want to do better, or are people struggling to kind of change?
It is a struggle, absolutely. It is definitely a struggle because we have to work against the grain and we have to go uphill with a sack on our pack when encouraging you to eat and be aware of what's in your food because of generational conditioning in our community. One, we're really thinking, I don't have the time, or maybe it's you're a conspiracy theorist. We're like, hey. But there is changes happening. COVID helped with that change. You isolated some people and made them sit still a little bit in that space. And then they didn't have access to the food they're rarely gaining. And people are getting sicker and sicker and at younger ages in our communities. And so it is happening. We are a very woke time because we have access to so much content and information. So we have gotten very, very far away. When I'm educating about gardening, that's why I call it a garden to table initiative. I have to convince you that this is the right way by cooking it and making it so daggone good. You like, what did you do for that? I grew it and cooked it. Can you imagine? And so I have to integrate that. I am going to have preparing of dishes on the farm so you can remember that this is what really good food tastes like that isn't processed. I have to encourage these gatherings of together of eating this food and working. I have to do the work, a lot of work first, and then show you and demonstrate to you. And I'm actually, we didn't talk about this, Gregory, but I am a poster child of what I'm talking about. I have eradicated major disease and disabilities in my body through what I eat. I have high cholesterol. By the way, and all of these were presented after I served in the military overseas, and I left Europe and came back to the United States. Then all of a sudden, I had all these issues. Allergies are in control based on what I consume. High cholesterol was really high, and I combated that with the food that I consume and out of the garden. Hypertension is managed and controlled by what I consume and what grows out of my garden.
Yeah.
Also, anxiety and depression disorder is controlled and maintained what I eat in the garden and the actions that I take on the land. So I am my own poster child. And then hormonal issues became a big thing And all of that was because of what I was exposed to, what was going into my body. So shifting my diet and going back to how my grandparents ate and being very aware of what was added to foods. I am a true poster child. And it takes a lot of discipline because that is not around me. I do a lot of ordering, driving, and I learn how to continue to grow something that I can eat.
I like
Yeah.
Jonathan's comment right here. Just to feed off of what you just said. He said that's why Big Mama cooked from scratch. And
Yes.
some of these restaurants are getting crafty with their wording. They got scratch kitchen
From
in there,
scratch.
and I question it sometimes. But there is some wisdom, Gregory and Orlana, if you will, in cooking from scratch. Right, so you're controlling what you're putting into the food and what you're serving. Would y'all agree with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Matter of fact, it's going to actually heal and correct a lot of issues in our community. One, we can't afford to keep eating like this. Our bodies and the disease and the sickness, we cannot continue. It's shortening our lifespans. We cannot heal from disease the way we were designed when we were brought over here. The strongest and fittest, we can't afford that. Not to mention, your pockets can't can continue to afford this processed foods that is costing you your pockets the taxes, the tariff. Food is getting extremely high. And then, last but not least, we have to learn how to have these great relationships around the table again. It can't just be Sunday dinner. And so
Yeah.
we can heal ourselves socially if we continue to start just talking about what we're eating, share those recipes. And let me tell you, being from New Orleans, we're centered around food. So I definitely could get a whole wave, a group of people excited about a dish. And then I let them enjoy it, lick their plate, and then tell them the healing properties that came about from that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
believe that relationships can be healed around food, actually.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I think there is a lot that we miss by not having dinners together anymore.
Absolutely.
We bring in Chick-fil-A to the house, and the kids grab their bag and they go to their room, and the adults grab their bag and we go off to our office or to our room, and everybody's eating in separate places at the same house. We don't sit down and we don't talk like we used to. Now, we're going to dive into a couple of steps that people can immediately do today, right now, to get started. But before we do that, I want to ask you this question. Do you feel like in the social climate that we are in, is there a real fear? Do you feel like there is an immediate necessity to learn these skills that we're in? And Gerard, I know you're a social advocate, so both of you please chime in. Do you feel that this is a necessary thing that we all should learn how to sustain ourselves through agriculture?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And when I tell you, just since January 16th, oh my, it had already been a start for me and my peers and organizations I work with to educate. I started 2 years ago with a very small garden class, and then I saw the need, how many people came out, how much lack of information, biases, and myths, straight myths that just wasn't true. And I saw the importance, of course, and then I did share that I went back and got a degree in public health. And so graduating in 2023. So 2 years ago, I realized, oh, this is not make believe. This is not conspiracy theories. There's a problem. We are at war, and they are really breaking down our community through food. And so that sparked this initiative. But then here lately, people are really concerned. People are worried about how they're going to feed their children well. And now politics has got to the point where food programs, lunch programs are being cut off. Changes with tariffs is going to greatly affect the food economy. You saw how in 2 weeks of a stay at home, which was imperative to control COVID, this stay at home, people wiped out the shelves. And I had never seen anything like that. It looked like they had gotten robbed. Well, that is going to become, you're going to wipe out the shelves and wipe out with the bad food. So it is very important. And people, you think that you want to have a strike against Target and have a strike against Walmart. People are woke and they're starting to realize, and those, me and my companions and my partners are getting contacted. Do we have fresh produce? And how can I grow my own food? How can I have access to what you're doing? What you have? Because I've heard that I've eaten X, Y, and Z, and now my child has this issue and this health issue. So it really has gotten to be Very imperative. It's almost as important as you learning how to drive. Just as important as you need, young age need to learn how to drive. We need to know how to grow our own food.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Gerard, did you want to piggyback on that? All right.
Yeah, and on this show we talk a lot about self accountability, and while I delve into this, I'll just give y'all a moment. I'm gonna call y'all out because it's not on y'all pages. Let y'all accept the tag
I
and
thought
post on y'all pages. But hey, yeah, we talk about self accountability, and 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 sacrificing, right? It's a changing of familiar, what's familiar to us, right? And it is we're gonna have to plan better. We're gonna have to take responsibility for our own health. And I like what you just said, Orlando. You said that it's costing us. Our pockets can't afford it. You're right. Could we afford the meal? Yes, but when you're talking about the health costs later, and we're literally taking years off of our lives, right? And it's a thing of inconvenience. We've been talking about lately about boycotting. And I think all that is important, but one of the things that we talk about is the sacrifice that it takes to make change. And if we're parents, we got younger kids that depend on us. I just think that it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's not fair to the kids that we already starting them off young with bad eating habits, putting their in their body bad processed foods when they are totally dependent on us. You talk about juvenile diabetes and cholesterol, just a number of things that kids, they're dependent on us to feed them, and we're giving them, not healthy foods. And we know there are issues around, affordability. To get a good salad, you go to Snappy Salads and they're $18. But that's why we're going to get into that later. What can we do ourselves to where it's affordable, it's not breaking the bank, but we can still feed ourselves and eat a nutritious meal.
I wanted to, and this is for Dorkeisha and Jonathan. We're talking about surviving on the land and how we need to remember and public service announcement that agriculture is imperative now in these times. Jonathan, I wanted to address that food on the farm is not organic. Food from the farm is not organic. And that is because farmers have been conditioned, they have been given funding to be able to continue these corn crops. Your sugar cane is excessively sprayed, and so is your corn. And 8 to 10 of the most popular fruits, to include strawberries, are heavily sprayed. Pesticides and fertilizers are used to make sure they can grow in abundance. They're treated so that they can come from Mexico, California, and Canada. So that brings on the topic of woo, we have terrorists from these countries now. They aren't playing well together. So now what happens to our food? If a farmer chooses not to use these chemicals, chooses not to use these synthetic pesticides, then we become organic. And that's where I come in, actually. So I can't teach you how to grow right here in your small apartment, but I am encouraging and pushing. The organization is called Soillutions because I'm pushing that it is imperative that we actually stop putting these chemicals in our soil, because that too is killing us and causing disease and severe climate change. So if y'all want to touch on that, that would be a great time.
So you say climate change?
Climate change, fires, flooding, extreme hurricanes when it's not hurricane season, which is right now. I'm a New Orleans girl. I know when hurricane season is.
Yeah, you do. That's right.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about, our ancestry and how, handing down recipes was kind of considered an act of love, and still is. I still consider that an act of love. Your grandmother hands down her sweet potato pie recipe. But when you know better, you do better, right? And we always think the best food was cooked by grandma. When we think about grandma had all those ailments that you talked about earlier, the high cholesterol, obesity, and all of those things kind of came with that. But when you know better, you do better. And so talk to the people like myself who do not have a green thumb. If you gave me anything that's alive, it probably has a survival rate of 3 days. It's gone. Once
We call that a black thumb.
that's right. It was a black thumb. So, being that we live in these urban areas, and everybody's fast moving, we got things to do. We're working 12-hour days. What is something we could do, even for the novice out there to get started?
Very small and simple. So I have a special guest here with me today. This is one of my friends. They came to join us over here, Miss Pepper. I highly recommend a simple pepper, which is everybody eats peppers, right? Is the easiest thing for you to grow. And the easiest. It likes the sun. It sits on the windowsill. You give it some water and a little food. And it's the easiest thing for you to start growing and to start off. I guarantee you, once you pick a pepper off here, you see it growing on the plant and you're astounded. Oh, I did that. It doesn't need a whole lot of attention, actually. Once you grow that pepper, and Tamika say, hey, Miss Pepper, you grow that pepper and then you slice it up. You throw it on the salad. You make an omelet with it. You just start there. I guarantee you the gratification that it does to eat something that you grew that simple in a container in your apartment on the windowsill will do something to you. You will see the affection that you begin to have for it, the attention and the reward that you got of it. Then growing it, you're gonna be hooked. So I'm trying to get everybody hooked. Once you start growing one, you're gonna grow another, and then you're never gonna buy a pepper again because you're gonna keep your seeds and then you're gonna multiply it. And we call it chicken math, which is a funny concept. And here I actually have, this is a blueberry, which takes a little time, a little knowledge. This is a squash. It's one of my favorites, which is another topic because it provides a whole lot of shade and it's super hot. So I use squash. And this is a favorite here, which is really popular. This is cantaloupe. I absolutely grow cantaloupe. And I started off with containers. I started off with trash cans with some drilled holes in it and a laundry box. When I decided to start growing my own food, I saw my parents do it. My dad had collars all over the house in New Orleans.
But you brought the country to the city. So one of the things you talked about was the phrase, I think you call it urban gardening.
Yes.
So and just an extension of the question that Gregory asked, what can we start doing? Like, how practical is it? Like, time wise, like, what are some things that we can grow? Like, you know what? I'm finna make a change right now. Obviously, I can't plant tonight and grow it and eat it and harvest it tomorrow. But what are some more easier, faster things that I can grow that I can start seeing faster gratification, if you will?
Believe it or not, you need 2 to 3 weeks for some plants. There's an early tomato that will grow within 45 days. Radishes grow in 30 to 45 days. They're very common for youth to see. I don't know if y'all remember, but when we were young, they taught us to go home and plant that red bean, and it grows really fast. But you can buy a plant in a little bit more mature state. This is called a seedling. I mean, somebody started the seed for me. I usually buy just a few, 10% of my crop. I start off with something started before me to give me a head start. And you can buy that pepper that already has the head start. Or you can actually do green onions and basil. That's already in the pot in the grocery store. It's very common in this season. Just start right there. But I say peppers because they're just a little bit less maintenance. Sometimes herbs have a change in climate, but tomatoes, those early cherry tomatoes grow pretty fast. They like the heat. They sit in the window. They don't need a lot of attention. They really don't. You mess with it too much and then it's bothered. Growing is just like meeting a new person, new relationship, companionship, kind of courting. I tell that to people because when you want to meet somebody, you get to know it a little bit. You get to know what they like, where they like to go eat, what kind of music. You know these things so you can have the advantage. Same thing with that one simple plant. Go buy it from a nursery, a feed store, or a local farmer, because a lot of us grow them and get them kind of halfway for you and then give it to you. I'll give you an eggplant or a squash, and it's most of the way already in a grow bag. And we give you some instruction. And then you just get to know, just give it a try, get to know the plant, learn about it, research it. I promise you, the more you get invested in this courtship between you and this plant, you're gonna really start getting into it, get to know it a little bit. How much time do you like to spend with me? It's that simple, because we overthink it, and sometimes we do a little bit too much to it, and it is self-sufficient and didn't need that. It's actually far easier than having a puppy. That's for sure.
Yeah. You spoke about courtship with the plant. So during this courtship, do you bring in other people to garden with, like, maybe a boyfriend or a husband or anything like that?
I'm so glad you say that, because it catches people on surprise. But it would behoove you to add some other partners. But nature, really urban in the urban space, in the rural space, this is already happening. That's already set. But in the urban space, you need to Tamika, all right, you need to bring in some partners. So this is an issue in the urban space. We spray so many chemicals, we get rid of the third person in this courtship relationship. Plants, I thought I was gonna get your attention. Drink a little water. Plants require a menage a trois, actually. Plants need pollinators. They need bees and butterflies, and some wasps and some birds, and something to come in and transfer that seed to the egg. The pollen needs to get to the egg and fertilize. It's not done on its own, unless the plant already has both. Nature is very unique. It may have male and female on the same plant, but it needs a third person to the courtship. So that is something else that I have to teach. When you're learning urban agriculture, you need to get away from that psychosocial fear of everything that flies and crawls. Some of the things are beneficial that God put there to help your food out.
So that wipes out or takes off the table, if you will, certain products, right? If I'm going to try to grow it in my house or on my window ledge.
No.
I'm not letting bees and wasps in my house.
You're not. So actually what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to kind of stimulate the flower and the plant a little bit. You're going to have to learn to, get to know a little bit and play with her, touch her, and make sure that she pollinates. And that's part of the process. You will learn that.
He did say it was a courtship, Gerard.
I did. And you wanted me to add the extra person. Well, yeah.
I'm 10 years single, so I'm gonna need some help in that.
So in the single relationship, there's some little extra work you do to it.
But that is an interesting point, because when you start a garden, generally, if someone starts a garden in their backyard, it does invite a lot of critters. And oftentimes many neighborhoods have rabbits, that will kind of bunnies that will kind of come and find their way into your garden. Do you find yourself protecting those animals? Like, how do you protect your garden from all of these, critters that want to taste your crops?
Eat them. Hunt them and eat them.
Well, I will tell you this.
That's that Texarkana speaking, Gerard.
It's I grew up on rabbit. Like I said, my parents was from the land, so it wasn't until I was in later, like 10, 11 years old, that we stopped eating off the land, eating venison and deer and rabbit, which is very good for you. There's no chemicals and pesticides, right? But there is some things that I do. I mimic nature. I'm very, very respectful of the land, because I know what it's doing to my ecosystem, what it's doing to the soil. So I don't eat any critters in the city, though, because I don't know what y'all been eating. But I do plant things that deter bad pests. I do plant basil, rosemary, and thyme to keep the mosquitoes away. I do plant really hot habanero to keep some of them bugs away. It eats everything up. And the squirrels, they don't want that ghost pepper and that habanero. But I make sure I do leave a lot of leaves on the ground so bees can go under there and hide. I am planting some dill because I want butterflies. I have some marigolds, dahlias. I want the bees to come. I want them to help me out. And I have to learn what is a good spider and a bad spider. Now, I'm going to say this. I said I was an urban farmer, right? I don't do snakes. I don't do snakes, brown snake, red snake, mouse snake. That ain't my cup of tea. So I do leave a little something out so the neighborhood cat can come do his job.
Right.
I have chickens. So I want the chickens, if it's littering, please eat them. And I am going to invest in a duck and a rooster so that they can keep those snakes away as well. But it is a balance that I have to learn what is good and what is bad, because there are some spiders that solely eat mosquitoes and grasshoppers, and they're huge.
Yeah.
And they're scary. So I had to learn that. But if you're in the urban space and in your apartment, you do want it to have some good sunlight. You wanted to put in the window sunlight, and you wanted to I put rat poop, cow manure in the plants as a form of compost to mimic what a regular farmer would have in the urban space.
That's good. Hey, so let's do a few of these comments, Gregory. Make sure we gotta pay homage to the to followers, and we appreciate everybody chiming in. We want to make sure we let your voice be heard, and keep the comments coming. And then after we do the comments, we'll go to a commercial, if that's okay with you, Gregory.
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah. So Tamika and Jonathan, they've been communicating in the chat. And Jonathan said that's why Big Mama cooked from scratch. And we talked about that earlier, but yeah, I think that's important. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, and you know what? It wasn't necessarily what Big Mama was eating, and because we did have the scraps, they didn't have as much chemicals. We were still the ones maintaining those hogs that we were eating. We were still mimicking nature and keeping our concepts from Africa. Our seeds came from Africa. They braided in their hair, they stuck it in their tarps. They brought that over and that knowledge with them. The Native Americans had that knowledge. It was the lack of care in ensuring that we didn't have best care or the last to get health care, that once the problem started, it couldn't get corrected. Now, the grandmothers are working with toxic food, treated food.
Of course. Tamika said, love that we can definitely heal ourselves with food. So you was talking earlier on how, since you've been out the military and changed your eating habits, that it literally did a reset on your health, if you will. So
yeah. I think that's particularly huge, because I've heard of women getting fibroids earlier than normal. Arthritis is an issue. Anything that ends in itis, it can be associated to the type of foods that we eat. And so to look at food as medicine, I think is a perspective that really kind of elevates us into making better choices. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but go ahead with that, because this is really fascinating to me.
You actually, we talked about some of the spiritual aspects, and there's actually a scripture that said the herbs are for your healing. They are your medicine. And the garden and the establishment of the garden, it was pleasing to the eye, but it was for our food. And so the food is actually designed, 100% designed to provide enough fuel for you to work it and hunt and take care of your family. The food was designed to actually heal the body. And I'm going to go as far as to say, put my shameless plug for solutions. What pops up out of the soil is also trying to heal and repair the land. So what we think are weeds in the urban space are popping up because they're saying something is wrong with this land. Dandelion is trying to fix it, crabgrass. Everything that is green that comes out of earth has a purpose. And most weeds, almost, I'm up to about 85 to 90%, have a medicinal concept behind it. The weeds that grow around the city of Dallas all have some medicinal factors to them.
Even that crabgrass, man, we're gonna talk about that one later. But hey, we got, I don't know if this is one of your followers, and thank you for making sure that your followers or your network is on here. But,
absolutely, I really thank my sisterhood circle for showing up and always supporting me.
Yeah, Live Through Your Soul says hello, family. Just tuning in. Appreciate you for joining us. Tamika was saying earlier about the family dinners are important. So we talked about even not just growing or eating more healthier, how important it is to eat it as a family as well. So anybody want to chime in on that part?
Yes, and I also saw Jonathan, I think, make some comments about that earlier. And we the really cool fact, the Hispanic community doesn't have a high rate of depression and oppression. When the economy plummets and money gets very, very low and they're struggling with food insecurity and depression because of the workforce and jobs, that's not the case with the Hispanic community, because their rooted foundation in staying close as a family and working for a family buffers that. Yeah. But in the Black and brown community, outside of the Hispanic community, high rates of depression when there's recession, stress, heart attacks is a number one killer now. the silent killer, because you're just walking around high blood pressure in your heart. That stress and cortisol, it has a really big part of possibly being overweight and stressing your heart.
You know,
So
it's funny that you say that because we've been taught that hey, we're because of us in our history of dealing with trauma and hardships that somehow we're immune against, from some
we're
of the stuff.
not. We're actually passing on that trauma. Literally, studies show we are passing it on to our children. It alters our DNA. It changes. It becomes part of our programming, and so our kids become high stress in the next generation. Actually, it's also shown that it affects the emotional intelligence of the Black and brown community because of what we put into our bodies, and we keep passing on this stress. That's not true.
Darkisa, haven't seen you online in a while. Appreciate you for tuning in. She says hello. What else? Live through your soul. One of our YouTube follows. She says exactly why I cook at home. We talked earlier about what some of these restaurants are doing. So that's important.
You get your kids involved and you get your significant other. I mentioned it earlier, but we skated past it. You have a lack of intimacy and communication in the restaurant. Fix them some really, really good food. Fix us some really, really good food. You ain't got to really cook it. Sit over that food and talk it out. Enjoy some chocolates. Enjoy some fruit. Put some whipped cream and honey on them. And bring back that unison communication. I'm telling you, it does amazing things, especially if it's good food. And you're like, feed it to them.
Hey, Tamika said 24/7 hunting season, so we're talking about catching those rabbits, Gregory, that's back there trying to eat our lettuce and cabbage, man. We got to do something.
I actually saw a rabbit last night, and I really, really wanted to just come back and catch this rabbit. It was a little bit. This is the season for all the babies to come out, and they run out the road. We built these cities. Oak Cliff and Dallas actually had a lot of trees. So they got coyotes, possum, raccoons, and rabbits off in these woods up under the highway. And they come out. But for Live Through Your Soul, it wasn't rat poop. It's rabbit poop. That is very, very nutritional and great for plants.
Is there a difference? No, yes. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, really. Yes. When it comes to eating it, absolutely.
Yeah. It said we cook all our family meals. Haven't had fast food in 5 years. Amen. And
Kayla Ware said, Flex, you better start taking notes and get the cooking at home. She wants some of those. She needs some of those.
Here's the thing about Kayla's comment. I don't have to because she's a great cook. And whenever my daughter, she pulls up and brings me some of her food.
Oh, that's awesome.
I've had some of these extended conversations with Tamika, and Tamika has some similar stories with you on how she's overcome some of her ailments, if you will. So yeah, there's truth to that.
We've talked about that. Yeah. I wanted to point that out too. Because Tamika and I actually talked about an ailment she's dealing with. So another reason you really should consider growing your food or buying it from someone in the community that grows it without those chemicals is nutrient and vitamins in the food are extremely diminished because of all those inputs and chemicals that kill the soil. All of the major things that we need, like magnesium, making vitamin D. Vitamin C is down 38%.
Yeah.
So you need to eat 16 to 30 oranges to make up. If the one you eat now, to get the nutrition that it did 30 years ago, you got to eat 16 to 30 oranges. Because
that's crazy.
So that's why we have so much sickness and disease. And unfortunately, if you're trying to go vegan and eat plant based, you're going to have to eat locally sourced that's not grown with the chemicals, or else you're just exposing yourself to these toxins on the vegetables.
Hey, Gregory, let's go to a commercial and I'll come back and we'll continue the discussion.
Absolutely. We still got a lot more to talk about. We want to talk about the ties with the pharmaceutical companies. I also want to talk about a little bit deeper about how bonding with your kids. We kind of talked a little bit about it, how this could be a bonding experience for families, husbands and wives and kids to kind of get together and become closer. And then you mentioned soil. I mean, I thought dirt was just dirt. Maybe we could talk
about I can't wait after the commercial break.
Dirt is yeah.
She's breaking through, reaching for the sky with fire in her heart, so never be denied. In the face of every challenge, she stands tall. With courage blazing bright, she conquers all. No obstacle can hold her back, no fear can change. She's rewriting finds her why. Her spirit fierce, her dreams.
Wow. Well, we are back. Hey, before we go another further, Gerard, I want to say a shout out to our queens. We miss you, ladies. We can't wait to see you back on the show. Amisha, Ivory, Debbie J. Hey, here at the Floor is Yours podcast. We love and support our Black women. So we wouldn't be where we are with our Black queens. So I just want to give our ladies a shout out that aren't with us tonight, and of course to Tamika for always having our backs and always there and supporting us. So we wouldn't be able to do what we do without the women that are standing beside us and behind us. So
we love Black women.
All right. Definitely do. So I'm really curious about, okay, since we know all of these facts about how the food here, especially in our country, is just being manipulated so it gets bigger and fatter, and so are the animals, how they inject these animals with steroids, and how everything just seems to be just an exaggerated image of how nature really wanted it to be. I actually heard once, and I don't know if it's true or not, how they will put paint on apples just to make it even look redder so it would sell faster in stores. Not sure if that's an urban legend, but I was wondering if you have any information around or any knowledge around, because the food we are eating now is making us sicker, which is making the pharmaceutical companies richer. Do you think there's a link in between those that are running the food processing industry and the pharmaceutical industry? Is there any connection there?
Are you on mute?
Sorry, yeah, I had forgotten. Do the commercial. Yes. So I have 3 letters for you to bring that home, and I'm gonna elaborate. The FDA. There's only 2 agencies that run our food, regulate everything that has to do with our food. There's the USDA, which is Department of Agriculture, and FDA, which stands for Food and Drug Administration. So that's the issue right there. They already tied in together. Left hand, right hand, front of head, heads and tails. That's a problem that people are trying to fight. Why is our food and drugs tied, intermingled? But to really, really bring in, to make sure that you don't think this is conspiracy theory. Anybody, there's a big word company called Monsanto. Monsanto was the juggernaut, the beginning. Monsanto was Elon Musk and Apple. They promoted GMO foods, genetically modified foods. Monsanto was the juggernaut. Then Monsanto was fought by a lot of people that had cancer, farmers, health enthusiasts came and fought Monsanto. Millions and millions of discrimination laws and abuse laws. And so Monsanto was bought by Bayer Tylenol. Also, if you kind of pay attention to things that's all around the different companies, there's the BASF. They own trains. You see BASF, you see it on large equipment on side of buildings. They are a multinational chemical company, significant in agricultural chemicals. Then you guys were old enough to remember DuPont. Remember DuPont? DuPont was acquisition and merged with Dow Chemicals, DOW Chemicals. You go on and on. All of the chemicals that was made to make Agent Orange, they had an overabundance. Warehouses after Agent Orange was sprayed and causes this nerve agent disease. What do they do to all those chemicals? What did the FDA do? We got all these chemicals, we're gonna do with it. They made fertilizer, high nitrogen fertilizers that turned around and ended up in our food. The same fertilizers are being packaged by companies and sold, and they have basic household names like Roundup. When you see those numbers, that 30, 60, 10, that's on the chemicals, that is the nitrogen concentration that they had to put on the outside of the bag, because had they give it to you in per state, you had a nerve agent. So yes, they all combined, absolutely. Now, can we say, hey, clearly you're just trying to keep us sick? No, they're like, no, we're trying to keep production high. And they call it innovation, because drugs are made out of plant materials, and so are the chemicals made out of plant materials. But they kind of just get mixed together to create high production.
Yeah.
You know, that there should be some type of crime, I would think. If we know this, who's overseeing the overseers, which is a big problem.
Unfortunately,
For
this
us, I think.
we touched on this earlier before the commercial break, early in the session. If you want here, America was founded in the food. You don't have no farmers, you don't have any food. Was found on racist principles, from the very, very beginning. You stole and created this whole economy off of free labor off the backs of Black and brown people to continue to produce food to feed them that they turn around and sold. And so that is the basis of the foundation of the USDA and the FDA. USDA actually had the largest discrimination case, and they actually had to own up to racist practices, actually stealing land from Black and brown people, denying them loans and benefits. And so they're trying to make up for that now, but it's a slow moving wheel. And then unfortunately, the people that are in power now, every administration, we're at a very imperative time where racism and the opposition to diversity is really about to affect our food in profound ways.
Yeah. I mean, I remember once hearing that only 1% of the slaves actually got their 40 acres and a mule. If you could have mapped, and I don't know if that number's true or not.
It was 1% of
only
the group
1.
that they asked. Yes, and so it's actually a number with behind some decimals. And farmers are actually losing tens of thousands of land, Black and brown, every day right now.
Yeah, man, I like this comment right here. It reflects how I've been feeling as you've been giving us that information. But Tamika said this is ridiculous, sad, and maddening that we have eaten so much of these chemicals cause damage to our bodies. And to Gregory's point, I think there should be a criminal element to this, right? To knowingly do this, and even not knowingly, I think there is a sense of responsibility and accountability when you are the powers that be, right? Even if it's just pure negligence, right? Being the fact that you don't know don't excuse you from responsibility and accountability. That's
right. And then also, unfortunately, in the attempt to cover up and to put out fake news, this is a time of add so much information. You can't screen it all. There was a time when I would want to look at a video and then the video would disappear the next day. You can't find these articles, but now you can't, you can't control that. It's so much information. So like I said, this is the most woke generation. They are the detectives. They are finding out, they're researching and doing their own homework, watching videos, and it just goes rampant. So this information is getting out there, and this, but unfortunately, what you do to a people that may stand up and rise is you damage them from the inside, subliminal, breaking them down. So here we are, 2025, and we're just really learning that we've always known that the chemicals that they put into the Black community all around in our air, in our water, in our food are making us sick. So we're a weak people, and we're not standing up and revolting and taking charge because they've already got the advantage on us. So, and then there's a fear of retaliation. If I stand up, we rally together, will I lose my house? Will I lose my job? And so you have to kind of be a little radical now in order to say, I don't care. I'm going to stand up for what's protecting me and my children. And the children are they are targeting our children. They're ahead of us. The generation ahead of us. So the foods that are out now are giving our children the highest rate of autism, ADHD, hyperactivity, and cancers than never before. Never before. It used to be 1 in 350,000. Then it was 1 in 125,000. Then it was 1 in 10,000. Right. Now it's 1 in a few hundred are going to have autism in the Black and brown community.
Yeah. In addition to that, also mental retardation.
Absolutely.
Has
that comes actually from deficiency. Well. So folate and ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C, the way it's found in our food, is practically depleted. So when a woman is pregnant, she's already so deficient in the things that makes the brain cell develop. So that's why it's really big. They go, oh, you need your vitamins, your folic acid. They started putting vitamin D and vitamin A in milk because it was so bad in the black brown community. They made a campaign out of it. They put it on the labels, but they didn't put the other things that were missing on the label.
Yeah.
So that is why babies, actually the black in the black and brown community, maternal health and infancy is really under attack, extremely.
Yeah, hey, you got me thinking about when Obama was president. His what's the health secretary? He talked about, I can't remember his name, but he made
Farouk.
There may have been, but he made a bold goal where he wanted to reduce cancer by like 70-something%, right? And his thinking was it's prevention, not just treating it when you get it. And part of it is what you both are talking about through the way we eat, exercising, and the environment, you know, it's pollution and a lot of stuff that, you know, the power to be pushed back on because it doesn't align with their goal to you know, the global economy to produce more fast as possible. But you know, he got a lot of pushback. But when it was simple as what you're saying, you know, control what you're eating, some diet and exercise, control the pollution and environment, and it will reduce the cancer rate by 70-some%.
So that's a good time to go back on the topic that Gregory mentioned before the commercial break, and that's the soil. So, you know, with the Obama administration, he really, really pushed clean initiatives, wind energy, solar energy, and it really didn't go well. Overseas in Europe and the other countries, they are absolutely way ahead of us, so far ahead of us. And in America, now the administration is kind of saying it's a conspiracy theory. Global warming is not real. You have got to, anybody that believes that has to be deaf and blind and mute, because at this point the temperature changes every single year in extreme storm systems. I saw on the news today that North Carolina in Polk County has had a horrible Hurricane Helene has hit them, flooding and fires at the same time. Mad fires, hundreds of acres, and flooding from a hurricane. That is advanced climate change. And I want to tell you, it comes from the damage to what makes up the earth, the soil. And so when I really kind of learned that a little bit in the military, I learned a little environmental science. But going back get my public health degree, and something clicked for me. That biology and the food, it really, really clicked for me, because the earth is made of two things, three, but they're all interconnected. When you look at the whole earth, the globe, the planet, we're the only blue and green planet. The green comes from out of the soil, and then there's water, and then there's air atmosphere, which is still consistent of the water, right? They have diminished the earth and the soil, decrease it with these chemicals to where microorganisms in the soil aren't living and thriving. And that is what makes us hold water. It's dry. If a soil is not alive, we come from the soil. Singular organisms come from the soil. We die, we go back to the soil. We know that we put food scraps into the soil, it becomes part of the soil, it becomes compost and mulch. We know that. But everything goes back into the soil and out, to include water. The water, there's only one set amount of water that God designed. When he divided the earth in the heavens, that was it. The amount he put there was there, and it was up to us to take care of it.
Right.
Nutrient, but we've been depreciating it to the where the earth is angry, upset. It's trying to reset itself. It's trying to put water back in dry places. That's what hurricanes come in. It's extremely hot in these storm systems.
Yeah.
So we have to learn to protect that soil so we can reverse this extreme climate change, or we're gonna burn up.
Good point. Yeah. And just a couple other comments real quick. Tamika earlier said protecting our babies is a priority, but she had somebody else, Tunya White. So you were talking about vitamin D and all that during pregnancy. She said, is that why women lose their teeth during pregnancy?
Absolutely. Because one, first of all, the way God designed it, the baby is the priority, the next generation. So all of the nutrients goes to the baby. And is not healthy and mom is not sufficient, she will break down.
Never
Absolutely.
thought about it like that. That's huge.
Yeah, and hair. Women tend to will lose hair as well.
It's a natural balance actually of the hormones. And there was a time when, and there's still a time in some cultures where they eat, and they're healthy and long, gorgeous hair, and they're fit and they're working pregnant. That comes from they have the right diet, they have the right soil. But here in America, pregnancy can actually become a disability. You're forever changed. But if our bodies was in a better state, we would have healthier pregnancies.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, Tamika, absolutely. We are not taking care of what God provided to us, but also that's a lack of knowledge. And that's why I'm so grateful that you guys let me come to share, so I could get the word out. At a minimum. Oh, let's see. Let's try to reload.
What's going on?
At a minimum, I just want everyone to consider what is going in their food and reducing these chemicals to be healthier.
Okay. Cool. So that's good. And I think we're actually at the top of the hour. Do we lose Gregory? I see.
I'm here. Sorry. You can't
Okay.
get rid of me even if you try. Before we wrap up, we have a few pillars here that we always like to reinforce here, and that is, empowering our community and also empowering our families. And so I think that this is a great way for us to empower our families, and, speaking from the vantage point as a Black man, as a leader of a household, I think what is great about this is that you can really teach your kids self-empowerment. That you don't have to be dependent on culture, that you don't have to be dependent on the grocery store, that you now have a skill set that nobody can take away from you. And what that does, I think that builds confidence in our next generation that says, I can depend on me and I can depend on God. If I believe in God and I know I can believe in myself, there's nothing that can stop me. And so I think what is vital for us as parents, as you have been saying over and over, Arlena, since we started, is that the next generation is important. And yes, it is not as commonplace today to see people with gardens. But I do think that as we become more educated about the things that we talked about today, it can be more and more common. And so I think it is imperative for us as Black men to, to not just make sure that our kids are financially literate, emotionally intelligent, and spiritually sound, but then also have these tools to say, well, if you needed to, if anarchy broke out and martial law broke out, you can still take care of yourself. And so, and also, and forgive me for rambling here, but I think it's also a way of bonding. Can you imagine the mental picture of a father taking his children to the backyard and you're planting seeds, and then later on you're coming back and you're grabbing those tomatoes and you're grabbing that lettuce and you're grabbing that radishes and you're going into the kitchen and you're making yourself a salad, and the kids can look and go, I did this with mom, I did this with dad, this is our family. And like you said, it's going to attribute to their self-confidence, but also the depression levels we will see drop. And that's because the kids feel self-empowered, right? And then we're investing in them tools that they can have with them for a lifetime. So I think the bonding in all of this is extremely amazing. We can't overlook it.
Man. And that is nothing more sexy than a man that can bring home food. He's been out hunting.
Is that right?
Okay.
Now we
Come on.
Not just McDonald's, huh? Some real food.
Nah. You have to swing by, pick it up, get out there on that land and return. Put some cowboy boots on and that cowboy hat, boy. It's becoming a trend. We're getting back to some of our old ways.
Look at Gregory, man, he's something else. You know what? I'll just add to that too, just the social element of this. And not to get so political, but people say that it's really just to get political. But Orlando, you and I both ex-military. We have our VA disability benefits. Not to put your business out there, but historically, that's been off limits, right? When it comes to times for the politicians to determine their goals and what they want to achieve. And this is the first time that I can remember that it really came under a direct attack. And it was really considering chopping those benefits. Here we are, same thing with Social Security, their real life, dealing with those things, trying to cut back those safety nets, if you will. And Social Security is not just for the elderly, it's for people who's disabled at the moment, right? And same thing for Medicare. So my point about saying all that is, like we spend a lot of time on making sure that we know how to manage money better, right? How to grow money. But this part right here, like if it collapses, right, the whole um, um, economy collapse when it comes to the monetary part of it, and it's not too far from the realm of possibility because it happened right when Enron happened back in what '04 when the housing market collapsed in '08 and '09. So there could be a time where we lose everything. So can you, especially I'm talking to the men, can you provide for your families? Can you grow food? Can you get out there and fish? Can you hunt if needed? And that, I think I grew up doing it and knowing not necessarily hunting, but fishing and knowing how to grow and plant food and harvest it, if you will. But I think if we get back to that, I think that by itself would help deal with some of the anxiety of the current situation. I know that if push comes to shove, I can get out there and get it. And when money don't mean a thing and your degrees don't mean a thing, it's those people that can get out there and till the land and plant crops and fish and gut them and cook them. That that's going to be the most valuable people in this society. So that's just my spiel. It's real out there, and I don't want people to overlook these times and think like, 4 years this administration will go away, and then we'll usher in new. Man, it's going to be. You just never know, and it's time. It's past time that we take it serious and do more than what we've been doing.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask Gregory and Gerard. I want you to think about when you got up this morning. And from Tamika, let him be, let him be. He's still thinking about how he gonna put these boots on and this daggone cowboy hat, and he
And
gonna
his
wait for
fan.
the breeze to come to his honey.
And his fan too.
His fan, yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely fan. I have a horse at the farm too, Gregory. Come on over and see if you can catch these chickens and grab this horse for me. But I want you guys to think about when you woke up this morning. You got ready for the start of your day. You touched probably 5 to 10 agricultural products. And I think we forget how there without farmers, there is no food. But we go by outside of what we eat. Agriculture provides far more than what we eat. So can both of you think of 3 things that's not something you would normally eat, that is an agricultural product that you use to start your day this morning? And it may have been more of an agricultural product in the past. It's become more chemically processed now. But
me, I'm probably the wrong person.
You.
Yeah, I had oatmeal.
I want you to think about how agriculture and farming is value. There's value added products that actually fuel our economy.
Food I had fish and red beans and rice today.
Yeah, red beans and rice. Okay, that's growing off the farm, but I want you to think of something you don't put into your mouth. That's part of your daily life.
Oh. That I don't.
I'll give you a hint. You had to take a shower.
My soap and lotion.
Soap
and lotion are agricultural products that have been processed, and now they got a whole bunch of chemicals in them. But shea butter
some people might call me and Gregory metrosexuals, but we moisturize, right, Gregory? We put lotion.
Yes. You look like you moisturize your skin. Yes. Your hair products, that moisture product on your body started off with animal fat.
Use juices and berries, just juices and berries. That's it.
That's why your skin look good, juice and berries. See, coming to America. Yes, juice and berries. Yes, and so agriculture, but I'm going to go as far as to say your clothing and your underwear. Cotton is an agricultural product. Hemp is an agricultural product. Bamboo is an agricultural product. Your clothing, toothbrushes, the furniture around you. Petroleum started off. I know some country boys that can make their own diesel. Those started off as agricultural products. And so now they make it as a special E84, E85 gas. That is corn oil.
Yeah.
So there is money in agriculture and what is grown. Your sugars, your cane sugars, and this really is far more vast than you realize. From head to toe, we took care of our bodies and our families with agricultural products.
Arlena, it has been a pleasure having you on the show today. But Tamika wanted me to ask you before you leave, Can you make a good sandwich? For some
A
reason, she
good
just went.
sandwich?
Yeah, well, never
What?
mind.
It
Never
gotta be a
mind.
poor boy. It gotta be a poor boy. A sandwich. Now
The
let me.
root.
Yeah,
I'm glad you asked. I don't
yeah.
eat processed meats. It
Mhm.
can't be meat because it causes inflation. It has to come off the bone. And believe it or not, when my significant other goes to the store, he needs to see the butcher, and the meat needs to be cut off the bone for me to eat it, because that is how
Yeah,
I was able to combat those diseases. I've returned back to the land. So a sandwich is my forte, but I'll get you some toast with some avocado or some peppers and some
yeah,
spinach out of the
yeah.
garden and
Okay.
some grated
So let me
Parmesan
go to
cheese on there.
you can make the sandwich. All right.
Hey, it's a little inside joke on that sandwich thing right there. But hey,
I knew it was. That's all
yeah.
right. That's all right. You're breaking out that sandwich.
Oh man, that is too
Yeah.
funny to me. Yeah.
Boiled eggs. You get some eggs out the chicken coop since you want to be a farmer's boy. Go get some eggs out the chicken coop. I
You
made an
think you
omelet.
got being a country boy in you, Gregory, man?
Oh yeah, I'm ready. I ain't scared. We, we so appreciate you having it. I know your time is
Absolutely.
valuable, but for you to come out and to tell us about how our diet affects our, our physical self, and how we can literally use food as medicine, I think is, an important aspect of it, the self-empowerment tool. And I think, gardening has been underestimated, because as we talked about today, there's so many branches to this, right? It's not just about picking your own food. We got family bonding that is just part of this self-empowerment, saving money, passing down tools to different generations. And so there's so many levels to that. And we appreciate you coming out and sharing your knowledge with us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you got going on, and how can people get in contact with you?
Absolutely. So if you see on my name tag, Solutions Holistic Ag, the website is solutionsholisticfarm.com. I am going to be pitching this weekend at a Boss Up brunch, and I'm super, super excited about that, because I'm on a mission. You see me everywhere. You see me posting, you see me in the community. I am an urban ag director for Feed the Streets Outreach, and so I take my garden skill set. I teach gardening. We have a community garden, and we're trying to address food insecurity here in Oak Cliff. But as an operation, I'm trying to expose the community about healing your body, coming on the farm, becoming fit mentally and physically, working out, connecting to the soil, and reversing the problems in the ecosystem. So I have a farm. We're actually located in Duncanville, right outside Dallas, and I am growing food and I'm educating. So you could come out, put your hands in the soil and learn, meditate, bring down that stress level, or you can bring some plants home with you. And soon in the future, we're going to pick those plants, make some crazy good dishes. And I also have the privilege to educate. So if you visit my website, you can see my many roles that I play, but I educate farmers, and we are actually working on changing this food economy by selling back to the economy. So we're working on that. We're working on communicating. So I'm out here trying to get the word out. However, I would love more support, more people to come out with the kids, visit the farm, come out with your man, come out and touch these horses and these chickens, and have the real urban experience. And that's on all levels. I teach container gardens. So at the event this Saturday, we're going to actually do a raffle, and I'm going to get out a grow box. It's going to be a salad in a box. And that's just the concept. Check out my TikTok and my Instagram. You will see me hanging out with the chickens. You will see me planting and educating, and there'll be a lot more content so I can get the word out.
Hey,
And
question for you. Will
Yeah.
you if I need to hire somebody to do some consultation to get me started, are you available for that?
I am. So that is going to be built onto the website. There is a contact form on there. There's a form asking if you want to buy produce. What do you want to buy? And there's also a form saying if you want to learn. But you can absolutely. The next step is to build out those consultations. I do 3 things. If the person needs to know about their soil, we conduct a test and I educate them. What does that test mean when you put a test out and it tells you have this and that? What does that mean for you? What do you need to do to the garden? I also come out. So if you're building your raised bed, my job is to educate. I have another partner that actually sells grow boxes, and she'll set you up with your grow box. either completely do it for you and you pay her, or I come out and I consult on your land space, the right location. My goal is to educate you so you can go beyond just that one incident. I want you to go beyond and have the knowledge to go further and further. And then lastly, I am a peer mentor and educator for farmers and ranchers. So if you have a lot of land, you're farming, you're ranching, and you want to know how to increase productivity, increase that soil and the animal production without synthetic chemicals, you can reach out to me and I'll come and check you out and integrate you in my community I've already established. Yes. It's all about solutions. I like to say, let us continue to grow. And that's not just growing plants, that's growing your fundamental thought process about agriculture, food, and building our Black and brown community.
Get off that medicine and get healthy. Get on the right food.
Yes, absolutely. I'm a war against everything that's making us sick. With it, if it go in our mouth and it grows out of the earth, I can help you with that.
And one other thing too, we're talking about actually doing another show where we're going to be on your farm. So we're going to let people get an inside look at what you do, and so they know you ain't just talking. You got chickens, you got horses, you got goats.
I don't have no goats. I didn't get a goat. They're so cute. But let me tell you, they could jump on cars, man. They buck. Yeah, I got no goats. I got electric fencing, so we're trying to work out some. We're trying to grow with animals, but because I'm in the urban space, there are some. When you combine the country and the urban space, they do come together. It comes with predators, so we're trying to put some things in place to
snakes.
Coyotes, raccoons actually hunted down my chickens. So I've started over. Wow. So yeah, Solutions could use the support, spread the word because it's growing. We're going to actually try to be a resource for those that need local produce.
Good.
Absolutely.
I like what Tarika said. Let us
continue the conversation. I'm gonna beat you there.
One more thing, Gregory, we got another flyer to share from an event that's going on our very own Mogul, and this is from Tina Foy, and it's Bliss Beyond Limits, empowering moms for autism awareness. So you talked about how foods even affect or influence, raise the number of people that's diagnosed with autism. So it's April the 2nd and the 3rd at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Mogul TV Global. And so just tune in. If you haven't followed us on the Floor is Yours podcast as well as Mogul TV Global, please do, and stay connected and always find out what we got going on next. So
yeah, that's going to be great. Even if you don't have a child that has autism, it's very likely that you're going to run into someone that does at your workplace or somewhere in life. And so understanding what it is and how to really engage with people who have it is just a phenomenal thing. Yeah. So that's going to be great.
Here's the site. Here's the site right here if you want to call it out so people can go and find out information about it.
I will share Bliss Beyond Limits.eventbrite.com. That's Bliss Beyond Limits with an S.
Eventbrite. Hey, look how she did that, Gregory. You might be in trouble, man.
Nah, don't worry about it, Gregory. I need to focus on this soil. I know it's a job. This is part of the need to put the information out about Solutions, but I want to build capacity and get support so that I can focus on the soil and the plants and the people. And someone else can take care of the videos and the content and do what Gregory do.
Arlena, we want to thank you for being with us today to help us fix our beans, greens, potatoes, and tomatoes.
You name it.
Yeah, I love it.
Helping us put it together. Hey, listen, here are my final thoughts. Listen, in the beginning, God created man and he put man in the garden. So it was God's intention for us to be dependent on ourselves and use what he's already given us. God himself, when he made us, he said, you don't need to go elsewhere. Everything you need, I've already given you. And so I think this conversation just brings us back to the intention that God wanted us to have in the beginning, that we don't need processed foods. We don't need all of these additives. God said the healthiest choice is the one that I've already given you. So We don't need to go another further. All we need to do is go back to the basics. And with that, we'll know that our bodies are healed, our minds are stronger, and our spirit has everything that it needs to complete the mission and assignment that God has given us. In the beginning, God placed man in the garden. It's time for us to go back to God's intention, to what we were meant to be and how we were meant to live.
Man, that was good, brother. But I'm not surprised, man. You always drop
into the garden. Yes. That's
Yeah.
our assignment.
Yeah, and again, I'll just amplify what I said earlier. Like, let's take it serious. You know, you just never know. I mean, you wake up every day, or Elena, we talked about it earlier. You wake up wondering, like, what is going on now? What's going to happen next? And it's these people are literally systematically dismantling these social networks, and you know they're going to do what they're going to do as long as they can get away with it. But we need to fight back. And what I'm saying is we can do some of the stuff that y'all talked about today. Taking charge of our health, you know, as far as what we input into our bodies. And, you know, there are options out there if you don't have the resources, the time, the capability to grow. But sacrifice, take time, plan. That's the biggest part. I know that I ran into that challenge when I started to try to do things different. I just didn't plan right. So I ended up 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, hungry. So guess where I had to go? Whataburger. You know, it's good. Yeah. It might be good to me, but it wasn't good for me. So, you know, I'm plan, do better, especially when you got kids. Give them a fighting chance, you know. Make sure that they're eating healthy. Spend that time with them, like Gregory said. And that by itself, those two things by itself just does wonders to put us in better situations and make a difference, you know. But it starts with self inside the home, you know, with each person, especially when you got kids. So, yeah.
Couldn't agree more. Hey, listen, guys, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you. We appreciate Arlene for being out here with us in these podcast streets.
Yes.
This Marcus out, man.
Thank you so much. Hey, once again, and subscribe to the Floor is Yours podcast. And the Floor is Yours podcast is exactly that. It is your podcast. So we want you to contact us with whatever topic that you want us to discuss. We're happy to have that conversation with you and bring on experts like we did today to talk about that particular topic so you can be informed, so you can make the best decisions for you and your family. We love you. We so appreciate you for being with us. We couldn't do this without you. And so as always, we appreciate you watching. Until next time, peace, love, and soul.
Let us roll.
This one here really do it for you.
Big beauty.